Hey there, everybody, and welcome to the first episode of this epic podcast, where we will be reading every issue of Swamp Thing that is out there. And of course, we have to start at the beginning, where it all started, and that would be the DC anthology comic from the 70s called The House of Secrets, specifically number 92, and that is the first appearance of Swamp Thing. And like I said, this is an anthology title, so the Swamp Thing story in it is only about 8 pages, and it's just a quick introduction of what would eventually become the Swamp Thing that we know and love. So first things first, we got the cover here. We see it is published in July of 1971, and like I said, it's The House of Secrets number 92, and Swamp Thing actually gets the cover of this thing, which is great. I think they knew what was the best story in this anthology issue. And we can see a young woman combing her hair in front of her dressing table. It is nighttime and her face is only lit by some candlelight. And we can see in the darkness behind her, a window is open and there's a full moon. And we see some sort of green creature that looks part human, part plant. We can see its hands and it definitely has red eyes, but we can't really make out the rest of its body. And the creature has apparently made a noise of some kind coming into the window because the woman on the cover is definitely looking back like she's about to turn around, either because she heard a noise or she can feel its presence. And the art for this cover is by Wrightson, who also did the interiors for this story. So on the first page of this comic, we get an introduction to the, I guess you call them groundskeepers, but it's the two brothers, Cain and Abel. And yes, it is a reference to the biblical Cain and Abel. The more shy, timid brother is the keeper of the House of Secrets, and that is Abel. And the more aggressive, mean, and violent brother, Cain, is the keeper of the House of Mystery. And each of those houses is the name of a DC Comics title from the 70s. So like I said, just a quick introduction and setup from them. They're essentially the Crypt Keeper from the Tales from the Crypt, if you've ever seen that or read those. They're kind of just here to guide you through the stories. And speaking of stories, the first one in this comic is the one we're looking for. It is the one titled Swamp Thing. And the story is written by Wein with art, like I said, by Wrightson. And we start off in a spooky, foggy night with a green humanoid creature wandering through the swamp. And the creature is in the vague shape of a human. It definitely has eyes that look very sad most of the time. It's got hands, it's got feet and legs, and it walks upright for the most part. And we get some narration from the creature, and it says, "I cannot remember the morning anymore, but I know the evening well. I belong to it now, and it cares for me in return, sheltering me, nurturing me, holding me close within its velvet embrace. The moon is rising now, clawing its way into the sky, a glowing amber eye that casts its disdainful glaze on the murky ooze below, the swamp that is my home. I move slowly through the moss-draped mire, treading a path that is worn smooth from my constant passing, on beyond the shadows and the dark trees twisting tendrils to my inevitable destination." And as Swamp Thing kind of works his way through the trees and everything, there's a clearing in front of him, and in the distance we see a house with a light on. And we can also see more detail now in Swamp Thing. He's got not just green skin, but it looks like his skin is made of moss that will actually like hang off him in certain areas, so you can actually see it's like growing on him. And as he stares at the house, we get some more narration from him. He says, "I have stood watching that old gray edifice for more lonely nights than I want to recall, dreaming endlessly of the soft golden lady who lives within, knowing I can never have her, wondering what she's doing now." And while that narration's going on, we get some panels that are kind of zooming closer and closer to the window that was lit up. And we see inside there are 2 people talking, one woman and one man. She has long blonde hair, and this looks to be the woman that was from the cover, and she's sitting down in a chair while the man next to her talks. She's wearing like a really long red dress, and he's wearing like a tuxedo. And the only light in the room is coming from a fireplace and maybe some candles, so this is definitely set in the early 1900s where there are no lights or electricity. And we can see the man is trying to pass her some sort of alcoholic beverage in a glass. And we get some like omniscient narration over this where it says, "You smile because he expects you to, but in the shadowed corridors of your heart, there is no real joy. There never can be." And as the man is passing the glass of alcohol to her, he's saying, "A toast, my darling, to us. Today is 6 months since we were wed." And then we get some more omniscient narration, and it says, "Your name is Linda Olson Ridge, and your mind is a raging river this night, carrying your thoughts along a surging stream of unconsciousness, sending memories crashing like waves upon some distant shore." And as Damien's handing her the glass, She looks kind of shy and kind of like she doesn't really want the glass or to be celebrating at all. So he gets mad and he says, "You're thinking about Alex again, aren't you, darling? I can see it in your eyes." And she looks down and says, "I'm sorry, Damien. It's just that he's still so real to me." And then Damien turns his back to her, I assume because he's mad, and he says, "Linda, Alex Olson is dead, and you are my wife now. Eventually, you will have to realize that fact. Alex is gone, darling. There is nothing to do but forget him." And then we get a panel where we can see inside of Linda's thoughts and her memories specifically about her and Alex Olson, her first husband. And her narration says, "Never. To forget Alex Olson is to deny a part of yourself, a good part filled with happy summer days and star-dappled nights. Mist covers your eyes and memories fall with the tears." And from the tears, we get some more memories on the page. We see Alex Olson and Linda celebrating their first year anniversary, and Damien is there and he's saying, "Happy anniversary to my two dearest friends. I really envy you, Alex. You got yourself quite a prize in Linda." And then we see Linda give Alex a present for their anniversary, and it's a golden bracelet. And Alex tells her, "Linda, I'll never take it off as long as I live. I promise you that." And in the next panels, we can see that Alex Olson and Damien are scientists who are partners. And Alex is telling Damien, "We make a fine team, don't we, Damien? I don't know where I'd be without your help." And Damien responds, "If this project succeeds, Alex, that'll be all the thanks I need." Then in the next panel, we see an explosion happening from inside the lab, and we see outside the lab, Damien is holding Linda back as she yells, "Oh dear God, no! Alex's lab!" And after the explosion is over, Damien's trying to calm her down. He says, "Don't go in there. There's nothing left to see, Linda. Alex is dead." And he's yelling that at her as she's saying, "Oh, Damien," and is crying in her hands, saying no over and over again. Then Linda is snapped out of her memories by Damien saying, "Linda, you haven't heard a word I've said." And then we cut to outside the house where we see the monster is now coming closer to the house. And it's pouring rain as he's shambling closer and closer. It seems like his body is constantly off balance, like maybe he's not used to it yet. And the awkwardness of his poses just add to the creepiness of the overall story so far. So then we cut back inside where Damien is asking Linda, "Is something wrong? You don't seem well." And she says, "It's only the chill night air, darling. It will pass." But then her omniscient narration says, "You look into your husband's eyes and you see only shadows. Dark, veiled things that whisper to the surface and quickly fade away as you wonder what is going through his mind." And then we get a close-up of Damien's face, and I don't think I described him before, but he's got kind of parted hair off to the side. He's got a mustache, and he's just kind of your average white guy from the early 1900s. And he's thinking to himself, "Dear sweet Linda, how truly lovely you really are. I never really forgave Alex for marrying you when he knew how much I loved you. You'll never know how hard it was for me to keep up the facade of the eternal friendship." And then we get Damien's point of view of the panel from earlier where Linda and Alex are celebrating their anniversary. And Damien is saying the same thing where he says, "Happy anniversary to my two dearest friends." But we can see as he shakes Alex's hand, his other hand is clenched very, very tight and he's very angry. And we get another panel of him watching Alex and Linda. I'm not sure if it's their anniversary night, but he's thinking to himself, "To see you every day, so close and yet so impossibly distant. Never to know your touch or the fragrance of your hair. It was more than I could bear. It was I who arranged the explosion, alone at night in Alex's darkened laboratory, quietly altering the vital components to rid myself of the only obstacle in my way, my best friend." And we get a panel of him mixing up different beakers of chemicals and putting them in the wrong proportions. And then we get a panel of Damien dragging Alex's body at night. There's a full moon, as always. That's an ongoing thing in comics. If there's a moon, it's got to be full. And the narration over that says, "You'll never know that Alex wasn't killed in the explosion, that I carried his battered and bloody form out to the fetid interior of the swamp beyond and buried it there. Oh, I was every bit the bereaved friend at the funeral. Always the comforting shoulder, the tender word. It was only a matter of time until you turned to me for comfort. Our marriage was inevitable." And then we cut back to the room out of his thoughts, and Linda is telling him, "Forgive me, darling, but the chill has grown worse. Perhaps I ought to retire to my room." And Damien says, "Of course, Linda. How thoughtless of me. Go ahead. I'll join you shortly." And as she walks away, Linda says in her narration that She can definitely feel Damien staring at her. And it says that his gaze is searing tremors into the small of her back. And the reason why Damien is staring at her so hard is because he has started to notice a change in her towards him. And as she walks away, he thinks to himself, she can't bear my touch anymore. That's the first sign. All the little scraps of information she's been gathering are coming together at last. It's only a matter of time before she realizes that I killed Alex, and that will be my end. However much I care of Linda, my own neck comes first. Linda must die. And then we cut to Linda's bedroom where she is in front of her dressing table combing her hair, and she's thinking to herself, Damien is half the way across the house. Why can't I shake the feeling that someone's watching me? And the reason why she's feeling like that is because someone is watching her, specifically the monster outside who has made it from the swamp across the field and is now looking at her through her bedroom window. And he narrates, my heart beats softly once again, for the sparkle in her eyes fills my soul with a joy I cannot deserve. Linda. Her name rings like fine crystal. Her hair shines like gold. And the panel of him watching her is great because you can see the reflection of her in his eye, and you can tell in the downward angle of his eyebrow that he's very, very sad as he's watching her. And he's also probably sad because Damien walks in the room as well. So I think this is the first time he's seeing that his wife is now married to his old science partner, Damien. And Damien's asking Linda, are you feeling any better, darling? And she says, a little better, I suppose, Damien. But don't worry yourself. It's nothing, really. And Damien says, nonsense. Come, I'll massage your neck. That should work out the chill. But we can see in the panel that as he's coming up behind her to massage her neck, he's got a hypodermic needle that's probably full of poison. He's about to kill Linda so he can cover the tracks of his murder. And since the creature's outside, he can see the hypodermic needle in Damien's hand as he's about to stab her with it. And the creature's narration says, he stands silently behind her, the needle poised to strike, to end the life of the only thing in this world that makes my existence bearable, the only reason I live. Fury fills the space behind my eyes, and I walk into the room. And by walk, he means crash straight through the window and grab the hands of Damien. And of course, Linda is freaked out too as the monster crashes through the window, but she didn't know she was about to be killed by her husband, Damien. So she just sees the monster grab Damien by the hands as Damien yells, oh God, no, get away from, And then the creature's narration says, with a speed I've never known before, I move the fetid bulk that is my body across the span of feet, and the claw that is my hand closes upon Damien's wrist, crushing it. And then we get a panel of the creature's hands going around Damien's neck, and the narration says, slowly, certainly, I force the life from Damien's black-hearted body, a life he does not deserve. For several short minutes, Damien Ridge struggles for his unworthy life, tearing, clawing, ripping decaying shreds from what once had been my flesh, until at last he lies still, forever, and my bright golden lady stands screaming behind me. And hearing the screaming, the creature drops Damien's limp body to the ground and turns around pleading with his hands out, looking very sad and like trying to get her to understand him. And we get Linda's narration saying, the loathsome monstrosity turns from the body of your husband and reaches for you with his arms dripping filth. Fear wells up within you like a flood, and the sound of your own screaming rings in your ears. And as the creature shambles forward, his narration says, I stretch out my arms to her, to calm her, to comfort her. I open my mouth to tell her how much I care, but what once had been my vocal cords have been silent too long. I can't make a sound. And as he sees the fear in her eyes, he just turns around because he knows he's not going to be able to get her to understand. So he turns around and he begins to walk out, and his narration says, the tortured, shattered look in her once sparkling eyes is more than I can endure, and I turn my face away from her, and I start to go home. Only the swamp is kind to me now. It is only the swamp that cares. I look down at my wrist at the barren place where once there was a golden bracelet, and I wonder where it is. And as the creature looks down at his wrist, we see the emotion in his face go from just regular kind of sadness to ultimate despair. And he walks out of the house and into the swamp again. And in the last panel, we see the green, mossy-covered figure of the creature shambling forward into the foggy swamp. And the last words of this comic are the narration from the creature saying, if tears could come, they would. And that, my friends, is the first appearance of Swamp Thing from 1971. And there's a couple years in between this House of Secrets issue and the first issue of the ongoing Swamp Thing series, which we'll be reading the first issue of in the next episode. So if you guys have any comments, questions, or suggestions, you can email me at planes, trains, and comicbooks, all one word, @gmail.com. And until next time, stay swampy.